In this video, I'm going to approach graft a jackfruit seedling, and I'm going to use scion from this Primate special jackfruit tree. An approach graft is an easier way to graft. I don't have great success when I do when I do sort of cleft or veneer grafts with jackfruit. I'm getting better, but I'm not the best with them. But when I do approach grafts, they're usually pretty successful. And so I'm doing this graft as a backup for this tree and for a friend of mine. So I went with the approach graft. I'm in no rush and I want to ensure myself success. The first step is to find a suitable branch that you're going to use as your scion within the donor tree. Then you need to place your seedling in a position so you can bring the two branches together for the duration of the grafting process. I already had this star picket here to try and straighten this tree up, so I'm just taping my seedling to the star picket, and that puts it in a good position for the branch that I had in mind. I then cleaned up the trunk of my seedling so I could get the two branches up beside each other for the approach graft. You can see that the particular branch I've chosen as the scion wood is of a similar size to the trunk of my seedling, and that it's actively growing. That is important. When you cut into your scion wood and into your seedling to perform the approach graft, obviously they have to be at the same height, and you want the two cambium layers on both sides of the branch to line up with each other. My general rule is to cut nice and straight, of course, but as close to halfway through as possible. So as close to halfway through the scion wood and as close to halfway through the seedling without actually going to halfway as possible. I find that gets me good results. I wrap the scion wood and the seedling together using parafilm. Parafilm is stretchy, permeable, and it's delicate, and it doesn't damage the trees, and you couldn't really get it too tight. The issue it has though is it's not very strong. So I then put a layer or two of electrical tape over the outside, which just helps hold them together really tightly. I've used various things for this over the years. Florist tape is good, but I just find electrical tape so easy, so that's what I use nowadays. I remove the top off the seedling, leaving a couple of leaves and in this case a small branch, and that's my completed graft. I did remove this other leaf just because it was in the way, but yeah, that's my completed jackfruit approach graft. After a week, I removed the remainder of the top of the seedling or the rootstock, and I then girdled underneath the scion branch. So where it enters the approach graft, I girdled under that to try and stop the sugars from flowing back to the main tree and instead have them accumulate and bridge the gap where it's grafting with the rootstock. Another week later, so this is 2 weeks after the initial graft, we had some very strong winds forecast thanks to a cyclone that was off the coast of Queensland. As a result, I decided it was time to remove this hopefully grafted tree. I would typically leave this another week just to be sure, but with this strong wind coming, I don't want the wind to cause this graft to fail, so I've chosen to remove it a little bit early. As you can see, I just cut the remainder of the top off the rootstock and underneath the scion where it's grafted onto the rootstock and remove it, and that is your grafted tree. Because I did remove it a little bit earlier than I would have preferred, I also removed some leaves just to stop the scion from drying out, or hopefully stop the scion from drying out due to excess transpiration. I also sealed the open end or the open wound of the rootstock and the scion just to stop any extra moisture loss. It's been a few days, and as you can see, this graft's still looking good. In fact, the shoot's actually grown slightly, so happy to call that one a success. Approach grafting. If you're having trouble with grafting a species using some of the quicker methods like cleft grafts or veneer grafts, give approach grafting a go. I find personally I get a lot higher success rate with it with some of the species I find difficult. Hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching.